Requirements for indicators and data collection. This video was shot during the Interact event, Indicators and Data Collection, in Florence on the 2nd and 3rd of March 2017. In this video, you will hear about the official requirements for using indicators and data collection. What should the intervention logic look like? What are the challenges and solutions to using common output indicators?
Intervention logic of the program is a very important thing, and it recapitulates exactly what I just said. I need to know the problem. I need to know why I need to intervene in the problem. How am I going to define my problem through the result in the specific objective? That's what I want to change. The result indicator is a proxy that will allow me to measure whether I have been able to get to that change. Then my actions and my output indicators, common or project-specific, program-specific, and we'll talk about this later, are only the proxies that would allow me to tell how to phrase it. In my move into solving this problem, what part of it is attributable to the actions I've done? Because a problem can, and I'll show you some indicators later on that I have selected, a problem can just be solved by external factors completely independent of my intervention. And this is why the importance of getting the result indicator right, getting the output indicator right, getting the baseline right, and getting it not too far away, not too close to the current period because it probably wouldn't be fair, but also not too far away because if it's too far back into time, by the time I launch my intervention, the problem has probably already been addressed by external factors which are not due at all to my intervention. And then, So this is just a recap so that we know that we're all talking about, but I'm pretty sure we have the same things, meaning the same terms, meaning the same things. The specific objective is the result that my program is seeking to achieve. My result indicator is one proxy that captures one aspect of that change or the whole change. And then my output indicator is the physical delivery of my programs, the physical output of my programs that are going to inform me on the attribution of impact. How much of the change can I actually attribute to what my program has done? Now, this slide, why I wanted to speak about the three interrelated different dimensions. The first one, it's slightly lighter than the two others, is my process evaluation, which is not going in the direction of telling me what the program has achieved and how do I sell this achievement to my political masters or to the citizens, but this is just the first level of evaluation that should be showing us, is my public intervention designed to work in the way I want it to work? Is it designed in the way that it's going to be able to allow me to meet the results I'm looking? So this first dimension is not very much the topic of today's discussion, but it's an important one that you need to be keeping at the back of their heads, because as you go in collecting data for how your programs are achieving their results or not achieving much, in which way you need to think of redirecting a bit the interventions. But this thing, is my program actually working in the way it should be to allow me to materialize the outputs later on, is an important process that you should be keeping as you go at the back of your heads. Then the outcome evaluation is more about the actual delivery of the program along the output indicators it has set for itself, whether they are common indicators or program-specific indicators. I'm not going to talk about the project level, but we'll probably talk about it in the discussions. Now, the outcome evaluation is the actual one of today's meeting. Then we'll talk about problems in the design of the common indicators, which I completely believe the common indicators are not adapted to the ETC programs. And we had to retrofit the ETC programs' concerns and, scope of action so that these common indicators could be used in the ETC programs, and that's why we have so many ETC programs using project-specific indicators, which is not a bad thing at all in itself, as long as they inform us on the specific objective, because also the purpose we had common output indicators was to be able to aggregate data at the EU level, mainly how to say it without, mainly to address and be able to say how we are advancing towards the Europe 2020 objectives. And the ETC programs, if we're really honest with ourselves, their purpose is not to meet EU 2020 objectives. In certain very specified niches and domains they can be, but their purpose is trust building, cooperation, is getting people along borders that normally don't talk to each other to sit together at a common table and discuss those problems and come forward with solutions. But this is something I think which in the, in the collective thinking has not taken the place it should have taken. So that's why the common indicators that I see most of the programs have used, in certain ways, they're not going to tell you anything about how the program is moving into reaching its objective. So later on, I tell you, don't forget about them because they are in your programs. The programs have been adopted with them. So you have to do a minimal collection along these things, but we move on. Impact evaluation, probably Simon is going to talk about the different types of impact evaluations, the different collection data, the different indicators you need, the different settings you need for this. So I'm not going to go into detail. I just think counterfactuals for ETC, very simply put, probably you should forget it across the board because it's extremely technical. You need huge samples to do a counterfactual. You need homogeneity, which you never have by definition, and that's why we have the ETC programs, but I'm not going to go into this. But impact evaluations, you should be planning to do, and you should plan them. The CPR mentions that every specific objective should be evaluated, should be covered by an impact evaluation, meaning not that you should be conducting an impact evaluation on each specific objective, but that each specific objective we should have information at the end of the day how the program has generated or not generated impact along this specific objective. You may have in a program only one impact evaluation that covers everything, or you may decide to have 2 or 3 or 5. And now into the big crux of the matter. Sorry. So the thing I was saying about common indicators, your intervention logic, the logical link between needs assessment and problem analysis, response strategy, and then how I measure my response strategy. Has it been the real one and the needed one, or has it been something completely à côté de la plaque, is measured by these output indicators. And the main two, these are not the only 2 cases, but they're the main 2 cases. I've scanned quite a large number of intervention logics that Interact has very courageously put together for all the programs, where they've defined the specific objective, help me out, the result indicator, then the output indicators, common or program specific, and then the actions that are going to lead to this. And in some of them you see very logical links. And you see, okay, these guys have chosen a very narrow field, but this is actually, I see the links without going and overseeing the program on the field. Just by looking at the paper, I see this program has a fair chance of reaching its objectives unless something completely extraordinary happens. Other programs I've seen have a multitude of common indicators, the majority of which do not inform at all the specific objective. And I was wondering, why would they select those common indicators? And it's probably because of the pressure we've been putting on everyone to select common indicators so that you can show us that your programs are actually meaningful. And that I'll come to this. Sorry, I'm going a bit ahead of myself. But so the right 2 options, either the right indicator selected, so you see the examples are very telling, increase in the number of visits, measured by length of reconstructed road, because that's maybe the reason why nobody was going to this wonderful nature site, and measured by the increase in expected number of visits. Great linear link, great cause and effect link established as to how in our world you can establish cause and effect links. Or I promote cross-border mobility. I measure it through the number of cross-border workers, which is set to increase. And I measure it also by the number of participants in joint local employment initiatives. Neat, tidy, and fair, as someone said. The next one is, so the second case is either irrelevant. I didn't want to put wrong because it has a very negative connotation, but at times the indicators selected are wrong. And you put on yourself additional pressure on collecting data on these indicators, and they're not going to help you at all in measuring your specific objective, but I'll come to this. So either irrelevant indicators selected or a huge multitude, not to say overkill, of indicators selected, which again is only going to put huge pressure on you to collect the data without, at the end of the day, when you have the data, you can say, thanks to this, I've achieved this, because there's no causal link between the two. But those indicators that were selected show that the program is designed in a way that it's taken account of all the requirements. It's a very busy program because it means activities are going on and on and on. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, nothing much out of this measurement is going to have taken place because of my intervention. So irrelevant, how would you think a small ETC program is going to be able to, small in terms of funding, in terms of financial funding, but also small in terms of outreach? How can an ETC program really impact the declining average of number of days with ozone concentration above a certain level? Probably by using intermodal transport, probably by using electric trains. We will be able to reduce to a certain extent the particles emission in that particular day, in that particular area where this new transport is operating. But at a larger level, how do you really think we can do this? Because I don't. And then the multitude of indicators that I told you. So one program is seeking to increase the innovation of SMEs for product and processes innovation, and look at the indicators that have been selected. And these are all common indicators. I mean, the number is not the right one, but that doesn't matter. Everything that you see in red and in orange are indicators which are either completely irrelevant to inform you on the increase in product and processes innovation, and even less so is this change attributable to the program. The indicators that you see in blue, and especially those two here, these are the ones that are actually going to show you how much your program has contributed into changing the specific objective, knowing that the objective is going to be impactable by other external factors. And depending on the baseline that was chosen, maybe by the time you started your intervention, this change had already occurred. So I'm using this example so that we can also later in the discussion and later into how do you deal with the problems you have with indicators, is so that you have a clear idea of why some of the problems you should, I'm not saying disregard, but you should lower them in your estimation of how do I deal with them, because even if you did miraculously with them, even if you were able to collect all the data, they're not going to be a great proxy for measuring your objective. So I'm coming to my final slide, and that's again only a recap. We can't cover in a slide or in 2 slides all the cases that would exist, all the intrinsic elements of the programs, of the area in which they operate, and how many people deal with data collection. But basically, these are the 2 cases as well. Does my indicator, common or program-specific, inform me on the change I want to generate via my intervention? No, it doesn't. But there you have to establish the clear link. So what do? I don't get bogged down at data collection at project level, at program level. I don't get bogged down at creating time series. I just do a minimal collection, again, that indicator. Or if I plan a program modification, then I also plan to include this change, that those indicators I've come to understand with the program advancing, and with the realities on the ground being as they are, and with the project selection ending up at a place where I had not expected them to end up, I suggest I take out these indicators. Now, if they're part of the performance framework, what do I do? But then we can discuss on a case-by-case basis. And then, if my indicator informs on how the specific objective is evolving, whether it contributes 10% to it or 95% of it, it does inform me on how my specific objective is moving. Then I do collect data on this indicator. And I start collecting data very early enough. I don't wait for the evaluation to start. I don't wait for the annual implementation report to be due. I don't wait for, I don't know, you know the real cases much better than I do. I collect data as I go and as I can, by surveys, by focus groups. If I know that my regional statistics, which are almost non-existent for ETC, are not going to help me out, I design a method of very targeted data collection against this indicator, because I know that that's one of the few that's going to tell me how my specific objective is evolving. And then again, we can discuss in much more detail and much more specific case-by-case basis how I tackle all these things. But the main links to be done before you start dealing with the headache is this one, this or that. So this is really in a very recapping harmonization thing where we can't cover all the ETC programs and all the borders and all the cases of givens or problems. So in the discussion probably we can, and we have literally 2 days to discuss this, so I think we have enough time. Thank you very much for your attention.
If you'd like to see more details about the evaluation of Interreg programs and projects, please check out the different models Interact produced. In each of the models, you will find various materials such as videos, guidance papers, Q&A documents, links, and other details. Requirements for indicators and data collection. This video was shot during the Interact event, Indicators and Data Collection, in Florence on the 2nd and 3rd of March 2017. In this video, you will hear about the official requirements for using indicators and data collection. What should the intervention logic look like? What are the challenges and solutions to using common output indicators?